Now 15 FT 501 Quality Assurance in Apparel Industry. Today we will cover the lesson number 3, Quality Management System. Now what is quality? We have seen in the previous lesson, and what are the definitions and the dimensions of quality also we have discussed in detail. Now quality management system, what do you mean by quality management system? It is a formal system of a company. Okay, it covers processes, procedures and the responsibilities of individual persons, and it is a documented procedures. Now why these procedures are required? These procedures are required, main aim of this procedure is to satisfy the customer's requirement, to improve the effectiveness of the system and the efficiency of a system. And in order to do that, this type of system must be effectively done on continuous basis. So in the quality management system, when we implement any systems of quality, we have to monitor it on continuous basis and do the improvement. So that is in brief any kind of quality management system, how it looks like. Now question comes, what are the elements and what are the requirements of such quality, and what are the things required in the quality management system? So first element what is required here is some policy and procedures, that is called the quality policy and quality procedures. And this quality policy and procedures must be inclined with the requirement of the client or the requirement of the customer, and also it satisfies this need of the particular company. Second process or the second elements of requirement is the quality manual. This is must in a quality management system. So whatever the processes are there, policies or objectives are there, those must be documented. So that documentation is very important, and that documents should be there in the quality management system manual, and those manual will contain all the processes, product, instructions, records. So we call it as standard operating procedures, we call it as a operating instruction, work instruction, forms, etc. Now we generate lot of data into this process. While we're dealing with this quality management system, lot of data is generated in all the processes. So those data should be analyzed properly. So data management also is, that's why, essential part of a quality management system. Now there must be some internal processes will be there in the quality management system, and those things must be specified in the requirements. Customer satisfaction is one of the major area in the quality management system. What is the requirement or the specifications requirement of the product for the customers, and how the customers are getting satisfied. So those things are there as an important element in the quality manual. And then improvement opportunities. Suppose somewhere some drawbacks are there or some defects or the non-conformities are noticed. So those things must be tackled immediately, must be recorded, and cause must be investigated, and then corrective action should be taken into this process and or the products, so that it will satisfy the customer and it will give the improvement opportunities to the system. And finally, the analysis of the quality is to be made by doing some sort of internal audits, and then improvement opportunities should be mentioned there. So these are the different quality related elements and the requirements. Now what are the steps required to build a quality management system? Now first step is in a quality management system is to define and map a process. Now what is the meaning of this define and mapping a process? Now, when we talk about mapping of a process, it talks about the interaction of different processes, what happens while we developed any product in the manufacturing sector like apparel. Now, in doing so, a lot of interaction of different departments are there. Like a main process in the apparel section is the fabric inspection, cutting, sewing and all this. But what are the interaction with all these departments, with finance, with HR, and also with the admin? So different interactions are there into that. So we have to map the process and we have to define the interaction of each processes. So we have to map the process accordingly, so the process should go smoothly. So in order to do that, we have to develop some quality policy. So policy should be ensured in that sense that this policy will speak about the customer requirement. The policy should be inclined to the requirement of the customer, what customer expects. So that only we have to achieve. So the policy should be framed accordingly. So those policies and processes should be done at the requirement of the customer. So the organizations or the system, quality system, will move into that direction. So that is the quality policy. Now any kind of quality policy, when it is decided or it is formulated, those must be implemented. So how to implement that quality policy? Now in order to implement any quality policy, we have to define the objectives. So how the quality policies will be effectively introduced, that is there in the quality objectives. So what are the objectives of that particular policy and how it is met, that is there into that. Now then the next process in the steps comes the defects for processes. Now any process, when it is getting carried out, there must be some non-conformities arise into that. So those non-conformities must be investigated thoroughly, and then those non-conformities should be recorded and it will be investigated properly, the cause should be investigated, and then the corrective action should be ensured and also it is documented. So next process is the develop documents and records. Now each and every process, how it is getting manufacturing or quality related, the proper documentation should be there and the record must be created for further analysis. Now next process is the define the quality process. Now quality process, when we talk about the quality process, so what are the points, what has been audited or what has been come into the surface during the defect analysis or non-conformity analysis, and what are the corrective actions has been taken, what are the preventive actions company is desired to look into that. All things should be discussed in the management review meeting. So that's why this is all part of the quality process, and then the improvement will be thought of. Now in order to do all this implementation, we require the training also. So next process comes the determination of the training needs. Now when any process defects arises and we think over of the how to solve these defects, maybe that time the training plays a major role, and that time some workers may require some special training in certain systems. So those kind of training needs should be identified in the quality process. Now next is coming the use of QMS. QMS means quality management system. Now effectively we have to use this quality management system, what has been mapped here, all the policies, procedures, quality objectives, and then the training needs, the investigation of the non-conformities, these are all coming under the QMS, quality management system. So this system in the next step measure and monitor. So quality objectives should be formed in such a way that it should be measurable. All quantification must be done in the quality objectives. So measurement is there, and when measurement is there, then this process which is measured, that must be monitored, so that this quality is going into the right direction or not, that monitoring is required. So measurement and monitoring is the process, next step in the quality management process. And then finally the performance of the quality. So far whatever we have designed, that is the quality management system in place, and we have designed the quality policies and objectives, we have taken corrective actions, we have measured the systems, training needs, quality process, etc. So after that, how is the performance of the company in terms of quality? So that must be investigated. So these are the different steps of any quality management system. So like in ISO 9001:2015, if we take such a quality management system, so we have to ensure that quality is ensured by taking certain steps into that, and those are the things which we have discussed from mapping process and policies and procedures, quality objectives. Those are all coming into such kind of quality management system. Now in a company, what is the need of such quality management system, that we must look into it. So what is the purpose of quality management system? So first point here comes the improvement in the processes. When such kind of quality management system is in place, so we can improve the processes. How we can improve the process? Because when a process is mapped properly, so everybody knows the responsibility of performing or maintaining a quality. So in such a case, the quality will be assured properly. So improvement in the process, what was previously there before quality management system and after implementation of the quality management system, what is the improvement is there. So that gap analysis should be made and improvement in the process parameters will be ensured. Now second purpose of quality management system is to reduce the waste. Now when the system is in place, quality management system is in place, and properly it is mapped, and then proper training is ensured. So in that case, the training, the cost of the waste whatever is there, like for example in sewing operation or any kind of garment industry where sewing is operated, if proper system is there, that what is the requirement of the training of the people, then what is the shift duration, so all this kind of thing, what if it is properly defined, what is the roles and responsibility of the supervisor, what is the roles and responsibility of the worker who is doing the work. So if all these processes are well defined, and what are the targets a person needs to achieve, then that process will go very smoothly. And if such process is there, then reduction of the waste will be very less, or we can reduce the waste. And when we can reduce the waste, then our production will improve, and ultimately when production is improved, the cost of the material or the lowering of the cost will also happen, because the waste is getting reduced, and the manpower and all these things we need not to invest much. So it is one of the way we can lower down the waste. Now facilitating and identifying the training opportunities is one of the purpose of quality management system. Why it is required training and what purpose the training is given. Now we already discussed in the how to build up a quality management system. Training is in the system, personal level of training is required to improve the competency of the people. Now we are achieving certain quality and we are meeting the customer requirement. Okay. Now in order to satisfy the customer in a much better way, we have to improve the system continuously. So that's why any quality management system, we talk about the continuous improvement rather than just one time improvement and then stop improvement processes. So in this process, when you are giving the training and also identifying the training opportunities, we have to engage the staff properly. So all the staffs in this quality management process should be engaged into these training activities and opportunities. And then we will set the organizations. So wider direction the organization will be set into that. So in this fashion, the quality management system, if it is there in a company, so company will run in a profit, it will satisfy the customer requirement, it will satisfy the people who are working there, and ultimately the company will run in profit because we can lower down the production cost and lower down the waste generation of the company. So this is in a very short form what is quality management system, what are the elements and requirements in the quality management system. Now what are the steps to build up any quality management system, and finally we have seen the purpose of quality management system. Now in the garment industry, when we talk about the quality, we must first mention about one particular index or particular, you can say, term, that is called the AQL. AQL is nothing but accepted quality level. Now how AQL is to be ensured, or how AQL is to be calculated, and what is AQL? Now in the garment industry, defects are getting generated. So when a garment is produced with defect, we call it as a defective item. So how to accept such kind of defect? For that reason only the terminology has come like accepted quality level. Now how to calculate the average defective item? There is a formula to calculate the average defective item. So that formula is like this: number of defective item divided by total number of item inspected into 100. So in that fashion we can get the idea of the accepted quality level. Now what is the AQL and what are the AQLs followed in the garment industry? Next question comes. Normally in AQL in the garment industry, it varies product to product. Now AQL can be 1, it can be 1.5, it can be 2.5, it can be 4, 6.5 and 10, but all will depend upon what is the price of the garment and what quality we are targeting into that. Based on that, the AQL level will be decided. Now AQL 1, when we talk about the AQL 1, that means in 100 items if we inspect, if we find only one defective piece, then we call it as AQL level is 1. That means that lot where AQL is 1, it must be a higher price garment. Okay, so the defects we are accepting is accepted quality level is only 1 out of 100. But when we then accept 10, 10 is the lower quality of garments. If we see the price of the garment is lower, then we can go into this process of accepting 10 out of 100 because it is a lower quality garment. Okay, and now when we will achieve 2.5, or what is the significance of AQL 2.5? It is a normal good or the good quality goods. Normally we designated AQL as 2.5, and normally AQL 2.5 is inclined to the major defects normally in the garment industry, and then 4 we call it as a minor defect. Okay, so any garment which is having 2.5 of major defect, we can accept that garment. That means out of 1000 pieces, 25 garments are accepted as a major defect. Now in case of 4 in the minor defect, out of 100 only 4 garments if it is there, that can be accepted. But interestingly, there is another defect in the garment industry which is very important, that is the critical defects. Okay, so these different defects, what is major defect in the garment industry, what are the minor defects in the apparel, and what are the critical defects, that we will look into in some other lesson plans. So here 0 critical defect means that critical defect, if anything is there in the garment, that will not be accepted, and that's why the 0 is the limit of that one critical defect. So no critical defect is allowed in the acceptable level of quality. So a good garment, when you are talking a good garment lot, so there should not be, which can be shipped to the customer in abroad, so there no critical defect should be there, and all the major and minor defect should be there within the particular quality level. Now, when equal fails, then what will happen? Now, when a particular garment lot is going for the inspection and it exceeds the major defects level in AQL, it exceeds the minor defect level in the AQL, then next time the inspection of that lot after the correction should be done at a 100% inspection level. So, then only if it is satisfying the 100% level, then only that particular lot will be passed and we call it as accepted lot, and the shipment can be done on this basis. Now, when you talk about the accepted quality level, so this accepted quality level how to achieve? So, in order to achieve that, there is a particular chart is used, that is called AQL chart. Normally, in the inspection of the garment, we use the general inspection level 2 or normal inspection level 2. Now, in this the sampling plan, if you see, sampling plan can be single, it can be double, or it can be multiple, and each sampling plan, that is single, double and multiple, they are having 3 different levels. Now, what are those 3 levels? One is called the normal level of inspection, second one is called the tightened level of inspection, and third one is called the reduced level of inspection. Now, when we will follow normal level, when we will follow the tightened level, and when we will follow the reduced level. Normal level of inspection, that any kind of inspection going on, and in that we found the major minor defects are within the limit. Okay, so there the normal inspection level will work. Now, tightened inspection level, when it is there, if a garment is a costlier lot of garment is there, so their sampling plan should be tightened, and also if their past history of that particular garment, if you find more number of defects are there, so lot was rejected earlier of that particular quality, then we go for this tightened inspection. And reduced inspection, if past history of that particular lot is good and also performing well in the present inspection also, then one can go for the reduced inspection level. So, there are 3 provisions are there, levels are there in any kind of sampling plan. Now, in order to do this AQL chart, following this AQL chart, the consignment size is very important, and also the sample size. 2 things are very, very important. Now, how to do this sampling from the big consignment, that we will try to see. Now, in the AQL level, when we are talking, there are 2 aspects in the AQL level, in all this 1.5, 2.5 and 4 category of AQL level. One is their acceptance and another is called the rejection. So, number of items, if it is there in within the limit, then we call it as an accepted level, and if it exceeds that level, then we will call it as a rejected level. Now, for an example, if you see any kind of inspection table, if you formulate, or if you see that suppose 30,000 pieces of garment needs to be investigated. So, as per this sampling plan, that is I am talking about the normal level 2, general inspection level 2, there are 30,000 suppose pieces of garment if we want to inspect. So, we can take samples of 315 pieces only. So, these 300 pieces can be the representative of that particular sample or the particular lot. Now, in 315 pieces, we will try to inspect at 2.5, if we find the AQL level, in that particular AQL level chart, normal inspection level, accepted level is 14 and rejection level is 15. Now, by chance the lot is performing within 14, if defects coming 13, then it is accepted, and if it exceeds 16, then the lot is rejected. So, in that fashion the corrective action should be taken and the inspection can be done accordingly. Now, next process in the AQL comes is the lot tolerance percent defective. Now, what is LTPD? LTPD and AQL, there is little bit of difference is there between them, and quality of garment as per the LTPD, quality routinely rejected by sampling pan, that is coming under LTPD. But AQL we have seen quality which is acceptable, okay, percentage defective is acceptable, but where LTPD talks about quality routinely rejected by the sampling pan. So this is the difference between these two. And lots at lower than LTPD, what will happen is rejected 90% of time, and lot when it is accepted level, then 10% time it will be accepted. So lots lower than LTPD, 90% time the lot will be rejected, and accepted only 10% of time. That probability is there in LTPD. Now any kind of AQL, when you are talking about the AQL or accepted quality level, this testing of that particular sampling plan will be done by the means of operating characteristics curve. So what is operating characteristics curve? Let us see. Now operating characteristics curves, what does it do? These curves measure the performance of an accepted sampling plan, and if we see that particular graph of that operating characteristics curve, we can see that y-axis of this curve, here the y-axis of this curve is probability of accepting the lot, and x-axis is given by lot fraction or percentage defective. So this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis of that particular lot, and this is the shape of a particular operating characteristics curve. Now if we go through this operating characteristics curve, we can see that percentage defects are there at different level. Now if we see the defects in this fashion, then we can see there are two kinds of zones are there here. One is called the producer's zone and another is called the customer's zone. Okay, two zones are there here in this operating characteristics curve in any kind of sampling plan. Now there are two different risks are involved here. Number one, we call it as a producer's risk, and second we call it as a consumer risk. So consumer point is there and the producer point is there. These 2 points are there in this curve. Now what happens in the producer risk? What do we mean by the producer risk? Producer risk is nothing but probability that a good product will be rejected as a bad product, okay, by the consumer. So that probability, when it is there, then we call it as a production risk, producer risk. Okay. So that producer risk as per this operating characteristics curve, what is drawn here is very minimal, means around 5% of the production producer risk is there in this product. So here probability is that good quality of a product that will be rejected as a bad product, that probability is very less here, producer risk. Now consumer risk, when you are talking in this consumer point zone in the accepted quality level, the products which are not meeting the quality standard will pass the undetected in manufacturing QC and come into the consumer zone. So a product which is of bad quality, okay, that due to some inspection problem or the QC problem, it comes into the market and consumer accepts those garment in that fashion. So in that fashion, this is called the consumer risk. Okay, so in this card, if we see the consumer risk also here around 10% only. Okay, so we can tell clearly that products that are not meeting the quality standard will pass undetected. That probability is only 10%. So 90% cases that lot will be rejected into this. So in this total operating characteristics curve, if we see that it gives about two qualities, one is the producer risk and another is the consumer risk. So there are 2 points in the curve, producer point and the consumer point. And what is the difference between AQL and LTPD? That is mentioned here. AQL, when we talk about the AQL talks about the average quality level over a series of lots, and LTPD is giving lot to lot based. So AQL is the average quality of a series of lots, but LTPD is a difference between lot to lot. So this covers the quality management system and the AQL chart and the operating characteristic curves and their significance.